Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this particular video, we will create an interesting stuff using Python language. We will be writing a code which will be used to convert any link into QR code, and that too a fancy QR code. We are going to learn multiple concepts in this particular video, so stay tuned and watch the full video without skipping. So first we are going to import the module which is called as QR code. This module is basically going to help us to convert any link into the QR code image. Now to install this particular module you need to run the command pip install QR code. You can see the QR code module is successfully installed and now we can simply import it. Now in this particular QR code module we have multiple functionalities. Now this QR code library in Python has a class in it which is called as capital QR code. We are going to create an instance of this class QR code and store it in the variable QR. Now this particular class QR code can have multiple parameters in it, but for now let's just keep it empty. Now in this instance QR we can have multiple functions. The first of them is add data. Now what this exactly does? It takes a parameter which is nothing but the link or the text for which we need to convert it into a QR code. So here I have given the link of my YouTube channel. So basically this link is going to be converted into a QR code. Now this is done with the help of qr.make. Now in this qr.make we need to specify fit equals to true, which means it is going to configure all the settings that is provided in the QR code class. And also it is responsible for converting your original link in the form of QR code. Now the object of the QR code is created. We need to convert it into an image so that we can easily look at it and we can use a scanner to scan that particular QR code. So this particular make image function in the QR instance, we can call this particular function, and this particular function will be responsible to create the QR code image of that particular QR code that has got created for the URL that we have provided, and we are going to store this particular image in the variable QR_image. So once we have got the image, we can simply store the image in the specified directory. So for that we are going to write qr_image.save. This .save function takes a parameter as the name of the file and the extension in which we need to store it. So we are going to store the file with the name qr_code.png. For now in the directory we only have two files. First is the @glance.png. This is the logo of my channel that we are going to put into the QR code once we are done with the basics, and the second file is nothing but the .py file in which we have written the code. Now let's run this particular file with the help of the command python qrcodegen.py. This is the name of the file. So let's write the command and hit enter. You can see the code has got executed and we have got the file also. You can see this is the generated QR code from just 5 to 6 lines of code that we have written. You can open your QR code scanner from your mobile and you can scan this particular code. You will get redirected to the URL that I have specified over here, that is the channel URL, and it works. Pause the video and try it. But that was just a simple QR code. It was not having anything fancy inside it. But what if we want to create a fancy QR code? For that we need to show our creativity, and let's write the code for showing all our creativity and create a fancy QR code. So for that I am defining a function which is named as generate fancy QR code. This particular function takes two parameters. First is the data, that is the URL for which we need to convert it into a QR code, and next is the file name in which we want to store the image of the QR code that is generated for that particular data. So let's define the data. This variable data will contain the URL in the string format. So here is the URL. And once we do that, next we are defining the file name variable. This file name variable will contain the name of the file in which we want to store the QR code that is going to be generated for this particular URL. So let's write a name fancy QR code.png. And now let's come back to the generate fancy QR code function. Now we are going to write the logic for generating fancy QR code. So first we are going to initialize the same QR code instance. So for that we are going to write QR code. In this particular class we are going to now define some parameters. The first parameter is the version. You can define any version, you can refer the documentation and you can get the specified versions for it. Next we are going to write a parameter which is nothing but the error correction. Now this error correction parameter will keep a track of the accuracy of the QR code that is going to be generated. Now if we want our QR code quality to be high, that means if we want the error to be as less as possible, then we need to specify the value of this particular parameter as qrcode.constants dot, you can see we have 4 options. You can choose the error correction to be low, high or medium. So here we want the error to be minimum, that means the error correction will be high. So we'll choose this particular option, error underscore correct underscore h, which means the error correction has to be the maximum. Now the next parameter that we are going to define over here is the box size. That means the size of the box that will be present inside the QR code, which we are specifying as 10. Next we'll specify the border. Here we are going to write the border as 2. So these are the 4 parameters that we are defining in this particular QR code class. And we are done with it. Now once we are done with it, we can now add the data to this particular QR instance. So qr.addData, and here we need to specify the parameter data, which is nothing but a parameter that is coming from the particular function generate fancy QR code. It is stored in the variable data and we need to put this variable in the add data function. Now once we do that, we need to call the make function, and this make function, as I already told you, that this is responsible for generating the QR code for the specified data. And in this we need to write fit equals to true, which will configure all this parameter which we have defined in the QR code class. Now the next thing is to convert this particular QR code object in the form of image. Now this can be done with the help of the make image function, and we'll store it in the variable qr underscore image. Now this make image function takes some parameter. Here we are going to specify the fill color as white. That means all the fills in the QR code will be in white color, and then we will specify the back color, that means the background color, as black. You can specify your own custom colors as per your choice. Now we are going to convert this particular image in the form of RGBA. Now this is done because we want to handle the transparency of the image. So this becomes more convenient when it is in the form of RGBA. So we are just converting it. Now our QR code image is ready. You can have a look at the QR code image that is created till now by just saving it in the form of PNG file. But I'm not going to look at it because it's the same that we have seen before, but here just the color is different. The background color is black and the fill color is white. Now we are going to create something different in this QR code by creating a circular gradient overlay on this particular QR code image. So basically we are going to superimpose the gradient that we are now going to specify on top of that particular QR image that we have created now. So for creating the gradients, we will be requiring this particular library. The name of the library is Pillow. You can just install it with the help of the command pip install pillow and you can access it. So from PIL, we will import the 3 different modules, which is image, image draw and the image filter. Now once we do that, we can now access it and create circular gradient in that particular QR code. So for that we will specify a variable overlay. And in this particular overlay variable, we are going to create an empty image. So for creating an empty image, we will require the image module. So we can simply write image dot new. The new function in this image module will be used to create an empty image. So image dot new, and this particular function takes some parameter. Now the first parameter is the mode in which we want this image. We want this image in the form of RGBA format. The next parameter is nothing but the size of the image that we want. So we just want the exact size of the image that we have created that contains the QR code of the specified data. So we can access the size of the QR code with the help of dot size functionality. So QRImage.size will provide the size which we want to create for the new empty image also. Now next we need to draw something on this particular image. So for drawing something on this particular empty image, we will initialize the image draw module, and in that we have the draw class in which we'll put the parameter overlay, that is the new image that we have created. Now what exactly we want to draw? We can do one thing. We can just calculate the center of this particular QR code, and then we can have a particular circle of specified radius, and then we can create a gradient. That means at the center we can have more opaque color, and at the ends of this particular radius we can have the transparency to be more. So it will create a circular gradient kind of look in the QR image. So for creating that, first we will have to calculate the center. So for calculating the center of the entire QR code image, we will write this: center x and center y are the variables which will contain the center of x-axis and y-axis respectively. So we can have the center as QRImage.width. Now this will calculate the width. We have to divide it by 2. This is nothing but the center of the x-axis. And then for calculating the center of the y-axis, we can just simply call the height functionality from the QR image, and we have to divide it by 2. So QRImage.height divided by 2 will calculate the center of the y-axis of that particular QR code image. So we now have got the center of both the axes. So now we can simply calculate the radius with the help of our specified formula. Note one thing, that the radius can be variable. You can put your own custom radius distance. But here I am specifying a simple formula which will calculate the minimum of the QR image width and the QR image height. Once we calculate the minimum, we will divide it by 2. So this is just one formula. You can use any other. So whatever is the value that we get after finding out the minimum of this and dividing it by 2, that will be the radius for the specified gradient that we are going to draw. So this is now the radius of the circle that we are going to create. Now as we are not going to have the same color transparency throughout the image, we are going to use a for loop for doing so. At the center we'll be having the least transparency, and as we move away from the center, the transparency will increase. So that is how the gradient is going to look. So the for loop goes like this: for r in range of this particular radius, that is the value of the radius, and it will go till 0, and it will have a step size of -1. That means it is going to decrease. So we are going to initialize the parameter alpha. So basically this particular parameter alpha will be responsible for keeping a track of the transparency that will be present inside the entire QR image. Basically at the center we want the transparency to be lowest, and as it moves away from the center, for all the sides of that particular circular gradient, we want that transparency to go on increasing, and finally it should vanish. So here I have written a formula which will calculate the alpha value for every single iteration. 255 multiplied by 1 minus r divided by the radius. So now for this particular iteration, this will be the alpha value, and Just imagine in the entire QR image, this particular alpha value will be for all the pixel values that are coming under the circumference of the figure that is getting created for this particular iteration. And once we calculate the alpha value, we can now define the color. Here I am defining RGBA color value, and the color value is 247, 212 and 54 for the RGB values, and then I am specifying the alpha variable. This alpha variable will be dynamic, and for every single iteration the alpha value will be different. Now once we defined it, now the next step is to draw the figure. Here, using the draw instance, we can call the ellipse function inside the draw instance, and then inside the ellipse function we can specify the position as well as the size of the circular gradient. So here let's specify the position as well as the size. So here I am specifying a tuple which will contain 4 values. Center x minus r, which will tell the position of the circular gradient constraint at the x-axis to the left hand side of the center. Center y minus r will tell the position of the circular gradient constraint on the y-axis below the center. Similarly, the center x plus r will specify the constraint at the right hand side of the center from the x-axis, and center y plus r will specify the constraint till which the gradient has to be drawn on the y-axis at the top of the center. Now once we do that, next we have to write the color that we are going to use to fill the entire gradient. So here we have specified the color in the color variable, and then we can assign it to the fill parameter. Next we can define outline equals none just to avoid any of the outline at any particular position of the gradient. So that's it of this particular function. Now we have drawn the gradient. Now let me tell you one thing again, that this particular gradient has got drawn on an empty surface, that means on an empty image that we have specified. So now we want this gradient onto that QR image. So for doing that we can use the alpha composite function inside the image module. This alpha composite function will try to superimpose the gradient image on top of the QR image. So let's specify the QR underscore image variable inside it, as well as we'll specify the overlay variable which contains the gradient that we have specified before. Now once we do this, the QR underscore image variable will now contain the actual image of the QR code with the gradient on it. So now just to check, whatever we have written as a part of the code is actually according to what we have expected. So for doing so, we can simply save this particular image which is present inside the variable QR underscore image, and then we can specify the file name in which we want to store it. So let's do that. Also note one thing, that the name of the file in which we are going to store the image is present inside the variable file name. So now let's write the code. QR underscore image dot save, and inside this save function we can specify the name of the file which is present inside the file name variable. So now we have written the code. Let's try to execute this particular code and see whether we are getting the output or not. So let me write the command and execute. So here you can see we have got an error, and the error is at line number 27. So let's move to that line and see where we have mistaken. So here you can see in the ellipse function we have specified 3 parameters, and it is expected to have a comma between 2 parameters. So you can clearly see that before fill equals to color parameter we haven't specified any comma, and that is why we are getting this particular error. So now let's execute the code again and let's check whether it is working or not. Okay, so again we have got one error, and this time the error is related to the positional arguments. Here you can see inside the code that we have forgotten to specify the argument list that we are going to pass into the function, which is the data variable and the file name variable. So I hope now this time it will work. So let's execute it, and you can see it has got successfully executed, and you can see in the left that we have got this particular file, and inside this file you can see this particular QR image which contains the QR code as per the color that we have specified, and it also contains the gradient. Pause the video and try to scan this particular QR code. Whether it is working or not, just put it in the comment section. For me, it is totally working. Okay, so I hope the entire concept of creating the gradients and also adding it to the QR code is clear to you all. Now, that was not just what I am up to. Let us write a code to add the logo that we specify in this particular code. So basically the logo is present inside a file in the form of PNG or JPG format. We just have to extract that particular content from that particular file, and we have to resize it and then place it on top of the gradient in the QR code. So let's do that. So first we have to open that particular logo. Here I have the logo image inside the at-a-glance.png file name, and let's open it with the help of this command which is present inside the image module. So .open, in that I am going to specify the name of the file, that is at-a-glance.png, and now it is stored in the variable logo. Now let's specify the size of the logo. The size of the logo will be in the form of a tuple. Here we have to specify the width and height of the logo. The logo has to be small in size when compared with the entire QR image. Here I am specifying the logo size to be 1/4 of the entire QR image. So it will be 1/4 of the width of the QR image, as well as it will be 1/4 of the height of the QR image. So here in the tuple also I am specifying QR image dot width divided by 4 as the first parameter and QR image dot height divided by 4 as the second parameter. Now once we have defined the logo size, let's try to resize the logo with the help of the resize function which is present inside the logo instance. So logo.resize, and then we have to specify the size of the logo which is present inside the variable logo_size, and then we also specify the image.antialias parameter. So basically this parameter is an optional parameter. It is used to reduce the effect that will happen once we reduce the dimensions of the image. Here we are resizing the image and we are reducing the dimensions. So just to avoid any bad effect, we are going to specify this image.antialias parameter. Now next thing is to define the position of the logo. We have defined the size of the logo. Now it's time to specify the position of the logo. We want the logo to be at the center of the entire QR image. So let's specify the position. So here inside this particular variable, I am going to specify a tuple which will contain the position on the x-axis and the position on the y-axis. So basically we want the position of the logo on the x-axis to be at the center of the x-axis, and to do that we are going to subtract the logo size, that means the width of the logo size, from the width of the QR image. So basically you can see QR image dot width minus the logo size of 0. That means at the 0th index we have the width of the logo. And then once we subtract these two parameters, we can then divide it by 2. So this will be the position on the x-axis. Now similarly we have to specify the position on the y-axis. So we have to keep everything same. We just have to change the width to height and the logo size of 0 to logo size of 1, because inside the logo size variable at the first index the height is present. So these are the two parameters that we are going to specify inside the logo position variable. Once we do this, next we are just about to paste this particular logo on top of QR image. So you can see we are going to use the dot paste function which is present inside the QR_image instance. So let's write QR_image dot paste, and inside it we need to specify the logo in which the actual PNG file is present, and we also have to specify the logo position which contains the actual position where it has to be placed. You can see the logo variable contains the resized form of the logo. And once we do this, we can now save this particular file and we can check whether things are working according to what we are expecting. So here I am going to save this particular QR_image in the file name, that is fancyqrcode.png. So now let's execute the code and let's check whether it is executing. So you can see it has got executed successfully, and you can see an image is also created, and in this particular image you can see that logo has got pasted on top of the gradient which is present inside the QR image. So isn't it looking interesting? I'm sure you loved it. So now I would like you to pause the video and scan this particular QR image and check whether we are getting redirected to our channel link. I'm damn sure it will work because it worked for me. So this was the entire code for making the boring QR code fancy. Of course, you can show your own creativity, and once you create your own fancy version of the QR code, do let me know in the comment section with the code. If you like this particular video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Also hit the bell icon and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Also join me on Telegram. Please share this video as much as possible with your friends. Thanks for watching and have a good day.